In his memorable speech, King Benjamin quoted words delivered to him by an angel concerning the coming of Jesus Christ and the infinite atonement he would perform. And lo, he shall suffer temptations and pain of body, hunger, thirst, and fatigue, even more than man can suffer, except it be unto death. For behold, blood cometh from every pore, so great shall be his anguish for the wickedness and the abominations of his people. This passage seems to anticipate a similar detail recorded in the Gospel of Luke. And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. There are two key questions that need to be resolved when interpreting these passages. First, the Greek grammar of Luke's Gospel is not entirely clear whether it is describing Jesus literally sweating blood or sweating as if he was profusely bleeding. Scholars have plausibly argued for both readings. While it cannot be definitively proven, this passage in Luke might be describing the known but rare medical condition called hematohydrosis, where an individual literally sweats blood out of severe stress or anxiety due to unimaginable pain or the fear of death. This would be consistent with how Jesus is portrayed in the Gospel accounts as anguishing over the horror of torture and crucifixion that awaited him, as well as agonizing under the stress of bearing the sins of the world. The second issue revolves around the contradictory evidence for this passage in early manuscripts of the New Testament. Many biblical scholars have come to question the authenticity of these verses and their originality to Luke's Gospel based on evidence from ancient manuscripts. As one scholar summarized the issue, these two verses in Luke's Gospel are greatly disputed, and a number of important ancient manuscripts omit them. Other early and important manuscripts include these verses. Given the current evidence, it is unlikely that the question of their omission or inclusion can be resolved. While there is manuscript evidence for the ancient authenticity of these verses being original to Luke's Gospel, it is not conclusive enough to be entirely sure. Latter-day Saints, however, have additional scriptures that tip the scales in favor of these verses being authentic and also describing a real physiological phenomenon. The Book of Mormon clearly describes Jesus sweating blood from every pore. So too does the Doctrine and Covenants, in which Jesus himself speaks of having suffered so intensely that it caused himself, even God, the greatest of all, to tremble because of pain and to bleed at every pore. Restoration scriptures, therefore, help clarify some of the ambiguities described above. What stands unambiguously clear is that Restoration Scripture and Latter-day Prophets have testified, alongside the New Testament Gospels, that Jesus endured unimaginable pain as he performed the infinite atoning sacrifice. As Elder Jeffrey R. Holland testified,
"But Jesus held on. He pressed on. The goodness in him allowed faith to triumph even in a state of complete anguish. The trust that he lived by told him, in spite of his feelings, that divine compassion is never absent, that God is always faithful, that he never flees nor fails us. When the uttermost farthing had then been paid, when Christ's determination to be faithful was as obvious as it was utterly invincible, then finally and mercifully it was finished. Against all odds, and with none to help or uphold him, Jesus of Nazareth, the living Son of the living God, restored physical life where death had held sway, and brought joyful spiritual redemption out of sin and hellish darkness and despair.